There are two ways to store a file once you've made a project in Logic. Let's do it the old-fashioned way first. I'll go Save As and find this folder that I want to save it in. And I'm going to call it Project 1 Old-Fashioned. I'm going to select Folder down the bottom. Now say old-fashioned, 5-10 years ago, using Cubase 4 and Cubase 5. This is how everything was saved. There were no options. You had to save it like this. And what happens is you save it, and it doesn't save a file, it saves a folder. Well, that makes sense. I clicked Folder and Save As. So you go double click on that and open it up, and you've got this underneath it, you've got that, and you've got these audio files and freeze files. So what I can do is, let's copy that and let's put it into a new location. Let's say I'm going to send it to a friend, or I'm working on a different computer. Okay, so I'm on a different Mac, and I copy it into here. So I've copied the project. Everything's fine, right? Let's open this up. Do you want to close the current project? Yeah, let's close that one. Saved. And it goes, error message. The audio file base.if was not found. Oh no, there's no base file. Okay, right, skip that. Oh no, there's no kick file. And I'll skip these all. And what it's actually done is, it's only saved the names of the tracks, the automation information, everything to do with the project is there except the actual audio files and a few other things besides. So when you save it as a project folder, let's quit that and go back to here. We don't need that. Did this close? Don't save. When we save it as a folder, you need to copy absolutely everything. In fact, you need to save the entire folder. Now, if you go into that, that's where all the audio files are, and there might be other folders. There might be the bounces, the freeze files, and also the pictures of the audio files in how they appear in Logic. Let's open up Logic again, and let's go to the project that I had before. In fact, let's open this one. If I open up this project, it finds all the audio files because they're there within the folder, and it knows where they are. Oh, by the way, it doesn't need to be there in that folder. It could be somewhere else entirely on the hard drive. As long as Logic knows where it's stored and you tell it exactly where it is, and it never changes ever, not even a single bit of that path has changed. For example, if I call it audio files 1, close this project and try and open it up again, it will not find the files because it needs to know exactly where they are, and they need to never change. So you can store on an external hard drive, you can store on an SSD, a solid state drive, open that up. As long as it's always the same, no problems. Now the other way to save this file is as a package, which is the way you probably normally do it. So let's go into test. Let's save it as project 2, new and simple. And let's call it a package. And it looks something like this. Once it's done, it will just copy all those files across, and it looks like this. And it either looks like there we are, either a Logic icon or is a screenshot of your tracks area, whichever is going to happen. And of course, if you double click on that, it opens. Now, if you right click, you can see that it's not a file at all. It's a package, which is a hidden folder. And within that hidden folder is where the media and the audio files are actually stored. So these two things are exactly the same. Whether you save it as a folder or as a package, it is the same, except a package is just one thing that looks like one file, but that's just Mac. It's just hiding what really exists. What really exists is this is a folder, and if you click on Show Package Contents, or like Show Folder Contents, it will show you the things beneath that. So what are the advantages? Well, you can move this around and it's just one file, and then you never forget, for example, to take the audio files with you. It's classic for people to get up to the studio and to have left the audio files on their iMac and to just have the project. Oh, where's my audio files? Well, you didn't copy them across. The other classic thing to do is that people, when they save the file and then export it to put onto OneDrive or send to an iMac that's a new one that they're working on, they don't click on these things. You need to click on all of them to include them all in the project. To be honest, I just click on all of them. You don't need to include the excess necessarily, but it means that if you've made a new sampler instrument, it won't be included. I generally don't touch this one because I presume that if I've used any loops or something, they'll be installed on the other computer that I'm about to use. So I always make sure these are clicked. As for this, it doesn't really matter which one you use, package or folder, just that you're aware of the difference. And of course, when you upload it to OneDrive or when you're moving onto a Windows machine, the Windows machine does not understand this code of it being a hidden folder. It just sees a folder. So the best thing is to right-click and compress the thing as a zip, and as a zip, it's one file. Okay, within OneDrive you can double-click it and see what's within it, but for all intents and purposes, it's one file. And then it's very simple to just move around and then to unzip it when you need it, particularly if you're going to upload it to OneDrive. What else do you need to be aware of? This. There's one more file that we can create. Well, in fact, there are lots, but there's one major type of file. So if I go to bounce this by doing Command and B, I'm going to make a PCM file. There are three kinds of PCMs: CAFs, waves. AVs and waves. So I'm going to make a wave file, .wav. I've chosen 16-bit, and I've made separate videos on how this all works. Let's make that within Documents, within Test, and call it Project 2 Simple. It's going to go through that whole thing rather slowly with my reduced RAM, and it's going to bounce the entire project. So let's just go and see where that's made it, because it exists here. Okay, this is a bounce. This is one single audio file that is a mix down of everything in the project. And if I had had the metronome on, the click on, then it would have recorded the click. And if I had turned this upwards instead of having it on 0, it would have recorded like that. And if I'd soloed something, it would have recorded like that. Whatever I've selected within the project will happen in that bounce, whether it's wrong or right. It doesn't know what's wrong or right, it just exports it. This is the file. It's the folder of all of the information that I can possibly have. I can't burn it onto a CD, or I could, but no one's going to be able to play it in their CD player. This is what I can burn onto a CD or turn into an MP3. It's a mixdown, and this is the entire project. They're fundamentally different. So usually when I ask you to compress the project, I mean this file, because it's the project. And when I ask you to send me a bounce, I mean this, or maybe an MP3, because that is a bounce. It is a mixdown of how you want it to sound, not the entirety of the project and how all the settings are within the project.